Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday online chat and discussion for remote viewing target 140709. And this month's target is the Kuwait Towers at night. I know that I've got you all conditioned to think we're going to be looking at towers every week. And I realized that, but I came across this picture and I thought, boy, look at this. It has luminance and shape and man-made and space and biologicals and all this really good stuff. And it's really far away from where most of us are, which I always find fun to know that we're remote viewing someplace that's not exactly in our backyard. I wasn't familiar with these towers at all, so we're going to scroll down through them. You have a little bit of the topology of the location you can see. Looks like palm trees here. I'm not sure what the malls are there on the sidewalk. And this picture is very similar. I wouldn't have included it. However, it looks like deciduous trees or maybe yew trees, which were different than the palm trees. So it's a little bit different, and that's the only reason that I included it. And I didn't do a lot of research on this target, but here is the bare bones. It's an urban monument that symbolizes Kuwait's progressive and economic renaissance, as well as world cultural and touristic landmarks. On the Arabian Gulf Road in the heart of Kuwait City, and the Swedish designers, and I will not do well with these names, Sune Lindström and Malene Bjorn. I totally winged that. And built by Energo Project from Yugoslavia. So we have several different cultures here represented, and it was inaugurated on March 1st, 1979. Coated with 55,000 Chinese steel paints of 8 colors, the Kuwait Tower spheres combine a tranquilized harmony between both blue sea waters and the rising sky. And I will do that now. I did do a little more research than that, and they are water towers. So hopefully I am not about to shut down this computer. It's not like it's Google Earth. It seems to me like it, from what I remembered, there's a different picture. And you can appreciate the white and blue because in your sessions, a lot of you were getting the white and blue. A lot of you were also getting airplanes. I don't know if there really was an airplane flying over at some point. I didn't see it in any of the feedback photos. Or if something about this reminds you of airplanes, I'm not sure. And you're about to hear one for whatever reason, corgi with squeaky stuff. Maybe. Here we go. I need to put this in the feedback. Main tower, lower sphere holds in its bottom half a water tank, and its upper half is a restaurant for 90 persons, a cafe, lounge, and reception hall. And it completes a full turn every 30 minutes, and it serves as a water tower. And the third, so we've got descriptions, all three referring to water towers. So other than you have 5 groups, mushroom water towers. And 8 shades of blue, green, and gray, recalling the tiled domes of historic mosques. They're arranged in spiral patterns around the spheres, and the group refers to ideals of humanity and technology symbolized by the globe and the rocket. They were damaged in the war, First Gulf War, but repaired. So I will make sure that that makes it into the feedback document. So there is your feedback. I'll minimize that. And we'll start looking at some sessions. As usual, in no particular order, July has been very busy for most of us. So we have several sessions, not too many retasking. So let me just grab one here. Here's John Stewart's, 8 pages. Looks like we might have about 10 sessions. So John with his usual multiple ideograms. A couple of new folks in here. You'll notice when he moves into phase 2, he puts the gestalt that he's chosen to work in parentheses, that structure. He's setting his straight paths or AOL off at the side and leaving space. There is no moving over to the right. He's leaving space in between. He's gotten his AI. It's really tall, and he feels his AI emotional is impressive. So then he moves into his phase 3 sketch. There you go. Pretty decent looking at the crisscross pattern. And I'm smiling. Hollow, large platform light. Exploration ambiance. It's tall, tubular, metallic, see-through tower light, conical shape, 2 of them, hollow, metallic, and looks like speaker light. So now he's giving himself move commands and starting to explore phase 4 structure. He has a concept here of tourist attraction. He places that in parentheses, which tells anyone following his session, which is one of the things about controlled remote viewing, so that you can do this in a structured fashion and be able to follow people in session. So all the perceptions coming after tourist attraction in parentheses mean that is part of the target that he is looking at right now. And session end at 1400. So here's a good example of a summary. Please take note. Target contains elements of man-made, motion, bioorganic. He's listed his gestalts. Man-made 1, that's an excellent teaching point right there. He's going to be describing more than one man-made, and he's labeled them 1 and 2. Man-made has aspects of structure, stationary, hollow, 1-story tall, 1930s ambiance, white, blue, and gray colored walls with 1 portion cracked. Structure has a historic exploration ambiance, discovery ambiance from the past. It's currently a tourist attraction. The structure has glassy light openings, which are rectangular shape and more than 1 position in a row. The structure is flat topped with attached man-made number 2 object. Man-made number 2 has aspects of, and he's describing each of the aspects that go with that target or with that gestalt. Tower-like, tall, very tall, metallic tubular construction, crisscross support construction, see-through, slightly conical shape, wider at the base and narrows at the top, spot on. Top portion contains conical shape, metallic funnel-like projections, which are 2 in number. Purpose is of sound energy collection and or transmission. Motion energy has aspects of rise and fall, repeated, high energy, and rolling light. And bioorganic has aspects of non-human, more than 1, black in color, elongated shape, and near the structure. And I'll see if Lynn's made it in yet. Not yet. So anyway, John, if you would like to key up your mic and anything you'd like to say. Looks like a great session from my seat.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you. Yes, not a bad session. It was interesting. I kept receiving the impression of water from my stray cat, sailing ship, whale. So there was an indication of water here, though none of my gestalt gave me water. Obviously, it's water tower, so very interesting. Also interesting, one of my stray cats out of the blue was Lowell Observatory, which I visited a couple of years ago in Arizona. And I suspect my subconscious is trying to tell me, to give me this spherical shape that I was missing. I suspect.
I was a little surprised not to see anything about water from you as well. But to tell you the truth, I figured if we were really working an operation, something I had enough here to retask you with, that I could have squared you up if I needed to. The energy part, it's a water tower, so the energy I think you said was coming in waves. Somebody did.
Coming in waves, yes. Yes.
And so, when you have the water creating energy, is the water the energy, or was it creating electricity, or some of each? It's a little tricky with these energy producing types of things. But anyway, I was positive you had good sight contact, and I could have retasked you and moved you around if I needed to.
Thank you. That was a fun session. Thank you.
I'm glad. All right. Let's see here. Michelle, we're going to hold off on you. Michelle has a session that I only had a chance to skim, and she usually covers a lot in her session, and I'm kind of anxious to look at this and look at locational and topology information in her session, because I don't have enough research in the feedback that I can give, confirms on most of this stuff. But she usually does a good job, so I'm interested to see, and I want to wait till Lynn gets here. So let's see who else is up. Bob, let's see. Is that your original or your retasking? Okay, here's Bob's. And Bob is making his way through intermediate training and doing a pretty good job of it, I must say. We've been practicing move commands, calling them retaskings on other targets. But as he put it, and it's a good learning statement, you do your session and then go on with your life. Because if you're really working them, you can't wait by the phone, you can't wait by the computer. There's other stuff to do. And it's teaching how to take breaks and how to move around, because some of the best learning experiences I've ever had was when I was at conferences and had a real monitor sitting across from me and could move me around and just teach me how to be curious, how to document in structure, and learn to chase details. So, but that's another target that he and I have been working off the side, so not this one. But he has several gestalts as well. We have 7 pages. So always good note-taking and particularly good detail work as far as the structure goes. And he is in front. He says his AI, I'm in front of the target site, and he's excited. So he's getting, it's brightly luminance, and I expanded his word there. But he's getting a lot of sensories with sound. Here we've got high up, vertical, whooshing sounds, quick movement. And anybody want to lay odds on whether I did this? You'd have lost. You thought I'd go the other way, didn't you? All right. And it hasn't been too long ago, Bob was learning how to document his perceptions from various parts of his phase 3 sketch. So here let's see, the land's long, flat, gray, narrow, and the man-made is red, rocket-like structure, narrow-shaped, tubular, and flying. I don't know if it's the height or if there's a plane in the area, because you're all getting it. And the biological ground-to-air movement, controlling, piloting, fast motion, seated position, focused, emotion, speed is a concept. And he has aerial maneuvering, which I made a note and sent back to him. When you look up aerial maneuvering, it makes you think airplane, but it's not bound to that alone. It's a concept. So if you were up in the air doing anything at all, it would still fall under those simplistic aerial maneuvering, not necessarily the pilot of an aircraft. So his phase 4, he's learning how to document in that. And here he's moved himself inside the man-made and described. Very, very good. Not just hanging outside checking it out. He went inside and started poking around. So he usually writes a pretty concise summary. Try to scroll down through here. Uh-oh. Here we go again. Made it. And, all right, so then we have a retasking. The target has aspects of land, the biological and the man-made. Land is gray and brown in color. It's brightly luminous. There are outdoor natural sounds present: humming, thrusting, machinery in motion. Engine sounds are at the land. Other sounds are whooshing, loud, blasting sounds. Rolling sounds of machinery and human communication sounds are also present. Other sensories at the land are beacon lights and marks on the ground. There are concepts of direction, straightaway, takeoff point. It's long, square, flat, and smooth. The texture and composition is cement-like, and hard. So takeoff point is really interesting. That would have been a very good thing to retask you on, by the way. Let me see if this might be Lynn. It is. I might have to do a little microphone maneuvering here. We'll see how that goes. Welcome, Mr. Buki. Oh, I hear myself. Very good. Not that I hear me, but...
Sorry to be late. My granddaughter is here, and we're having a dinner, and so we just finished.
It's okay. We'll let you have life. It's all right.
Oh, you're kind. Thank you.
We miss you, but, we understand. Just to bring you up to speed, our feedback, or our target this month, are the Kuwait Towers. Are you familiar with them?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, they're very beautiful.
Yeah, very impressive.
They're a tourist attraction. I personally think there might be an airplane in the vicinity just because we know this crowd and there are a bunch of them picking up on it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So we have a few pictures here, just 3 actually, but I was pointing out the topology. Here we have some palm trees. This is in Kuwait City. And we also seem to have either yew or deciduous trees, so I was letting them know. And it was built by some Swedish engineers in 1979, damaged in the First Gulf War. A contracting company from Yugoslavia built it. Now, I need to add this to the feedback. Here is more information and what you can see what they look like in daylight, because a lot of the viewers are picking up these colors. But they're water towers, and they have a restaurant, and they also, it rotates. That's the correct word.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a cafe, a lounge, a reception hall, and it has their, if anybody was doing scalar work, it has the how many meters tall, etc. And what part of them are water towers, whether it's the bottom half or the top half, etc., etc. And how much water it holds.
Very good. Looks like a really good target.
Yeah. And it has, get this, 41,000 enameled steel discs cover the 3 spheres in 8 shades of blue, green, and gray, recalling the tiled domes of historic mosques.
Yeah.
And they're in spiral pattern.
Oh, very
So
neat.
there you, I'm sorry?
That's very neat.
Yep. So I wasn't familiar with those towers either. So when I happened to see them going through, probably on Facebook or something, I thought, aha, I snagged them for later.
Mm-hmm.
So John Stewart's session, we just reviewed it, and he had good site contact. It's going to be interesting because I don't know how a water tower per se functions. You have to love your consultants for that kind of thing. But a lot of the viewers are describing the energy, etc. So I don't know that this tower with its water produces electricity, or if it's just a water for consumption.
Yeah, it's probably water for consumption.
I think so too, but I can't swear to it.
Do you know the principle of a water tower?
No, but I bet you're going to share.
Yep. If you have pumps providing water to the city, those pumps have to be gigantic in order to keep the pressure up. Okay?
Yeah.
And most places can't afford anything like that at all. So what they do is they have a pump that is only big enough to pump water up into a high tower, and then gravity produces the water pressure for the whole city.
I see.
So that way, with one small pump, they can keep the pressure up to the whole city because gravity will take care of it.
Boy, I tell you what. Maybe you should be a teacher.
I tried.
You're still a teacher. Okay, so now we are on, and actually John's session had a lot of good information on that very thing, the energy and the sounds. And so did Bob's. We're down to the biological, has coloring of white and gray. It's a male human. His colors, he's got blue and red with the bio, and it's tall. And this, I don't see, there are some bios probably hanging out, but I don't have one to pick out and look at. But he's tall and he has a lot of adrenaline. That's a good pickup. Concept of piloting, journeying associated with him. Quick motion with ground to air motion is associated with him. Controlling something from a seated position with a concept of speed. He's protected, uniformed, and encased in a structure. There are vertical motions related to him. He's trained for the activity and focused in emotion. Then the man-made is steely, encased in bitter and bland, and it's cold temperatures. Machine motorized sounds and humming sounds. And thrusting energy, there's blue and hovering and maneuvering. Maneuver moves across, up and high. Man-made is rocket-like in structure, narrow shape, tubular shaped with tangibles of steel. Tangible controls, feet and glass window. To the man-made construction, a meaning of speed is related to the man-made. I get an excited feeling inside the man-made. There's a circular motion to its propulsion, and it did say that it goes around. I think it's probably the restaurant lounge that's rotating. And there's meaning of transport related to it. the purpose of the man-made is aerial maneuvering. And one thing that was kind of exciting, I thought, was Bob caught that we have purpose, I'm reading sideways now. Purpose was aerial maneuvering. Sorry, my neighbor is dropping off cat food. Second, I'm sorry.
I just got a call. I take it she stepped away from the phone. Sounds like she's got a call too. Is that right? Oh, I don't have the chat. There you go.
Sorry, the neighbor is going on vacation, and they're actually entrusting me to feed their cat. So, anyway, am I back again? Can everybody hear me, I hope?
Yep.
Okay. So anyway, Bob had gotten aerial maneuvering, and I said, that is a great concept, not to be limited to pilots. As long as, when I looked it up and shared it with him in the comments for his session email, and said, there's a lot of things that aerial maneuvering falls into. So don't ever, this is a great example of a concept, and don't let yourself get limited by thinking that it has to apply to an airplane. So, he's just now learning move commands and keeping his nose in a target, and I'm trying to give him an experience in another target, not tonight, but like was similar to what John Glass moved me around and monitored me when we were up at Mystic Lake. So here I asked him, tell me more about that which you say are engine sounds. So we have several sessions. We'll just scroll down, and Bob's also learning to lengthen his sessions, and I asked him to tell me about the engine sounds, and he did. So the target has aspects of engine sounds. The sounds are steady and motorized. There are humming and whirling sounds. There's a steady buzzing sound of idling. Sound is jet-like and sonic, even and smooth. Aspects of turbine, powerful sounds. And I thought that was probably, not knowing anything about water towers, I had a feeling that was probably spot on.
Pat McDonald said that one of the towers is the power source and has a substation for the lights and all that of the others.
Nice.
So in there, you're going to have a generator.
Uh-huh.
And so on.
Thank you, Patrick.
The other tower is a water reservoir.
Gotcha. Thank you. Because I had a feeling there was probably, I just had a feeling from the sessions I'm getting, there had to be some electricity involved in there somewhere. Power station type. All right. So, Bob, very good session, very good site contact, good structure. And did you have anything that you wanted to ask about it or share?
Hi, Teresa. Hi, Lynn. Hi, everybody. Yeah, well, I enjoyed doing it. I know that. I was just getting perceptions of being up in the air. And when I was coming out with these shapes, so circular shapes and all this, I says, this just may not be an airplane. And you are right. You can't you can't, just because you have a feeling of being up in the air and moving doesn't necessarily mean you're in an aircraft at any time. So that was about the lesson learned on that target. And it was fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad. Well, I'll be darned, Lynn. You learned something.
You really, really have to watch out for those, for that analysis and jump into conclusions, especially with some of the targets you're going to get for practice targets. You know, the stuff that we throw at you shouldn't be thrown at anybody sometimes.
No, but they're guaranteed to learn something.
That's why we throw it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. It's the middle of the night where Patrick is, so let's get his session up. So here we go. Over in Nottingham. So he's getting, I think this is, because he always sends, this is his summary. So he's describing his diagram. He's got outdoor scene, construction, land, water. And Pat, can you tell me, I'm sorry to not know this, when you go sharp down, rise, dip, hair, waves, are you describing your ideogram, the motion of the pen on the paper, or are those perceptions in your summary that you included? And I'm sorry to not, I think your perceptions, because this is your summary, but you need to tell me for sure so I quit wondering if I'm confused. He has bright colors, sunlit, baking, roasting soap, and donuts, candy floss like cotton candy. Many people currently have been for many years. We do know there's food on site, and we do know it's a tourist attraction. And he has an AOL of holiday resort. And inside for people, there are 3 quite large buildings present, and he has columns. Metal sheet exterior. We've seen in the feedback that is so. Domed roof, large sliding door, and he has historic attraction. AOL's big top and his sketch presented long temporary people inside talking market atmosphere. Round build, sketch 4's round building with conical roof, no windows, slideshow, and amusement. In the main building, inside, machines on display, notices, explanations, some are suspended from the ceiling. And sketch 5 is flying machine, aircraft, old. And there's summary. Target feels like leisure attraction area at a complex land-water junction. Central feature is a large exhibition building with rounded roof, housing a number of aeronautical artifacts. There are temporary large tents close by, and large numbers of people gathered to experience the place. Now, what about that would we think is incorrect? I think that is very, very, very strong in hit ratio. What do you think? Anybody?
There again, there was the jump to a conclusion of aeronautical.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there may be aeronautical artifacts there, but you know, this is a land-water junction, according to that first screen you had.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an excellent description of the building. Probably has artifacts, but
Right.
I would have to wonder if the word aeronautical is, like I say, jumping to a conclusion.
I would really like to see some digging into what's in this building, because he's the third viewer. You're right, we can't feed back on that. But do you think there's any way, you people who speak turbine, do they have similar mechanisms or anything? But, you know, to fix on the aeronautical, you're right. I mean, it's not an airport, yada, yada. But he's got everything else. Excellent building description, purpose, concepts, historic attractions. He has the food, which we know there's food on site, and such as that. Was it him that just said we had the metallic sheeting? Yep. So that's more descriptions of the structure itself. So that's where I'm going. Is if you laid every one of his perceptions out, I think he's got a good hit rate. About the summary, that's another point. If you could just consider lining up your summary in as far as what perceptions go with what aspects and gestalt, then you're going to start shaping out a lot of the nouns, and they'll fall by the wayside if you can go reminds me of or describes instead of naming the aeronautical artifacts. Reminds you of, and then describes what the aeronautical artifacts are. Yeah, if you're AOLing, you know, you're going to go down that road. But if there's something there that reminds you, you know, it's worth the training to shake out the good stuff from the imagination. So I don't know if that helps or not, but anyway, I thought that if I wanted to retask you, I would have had plenty of stuff there to work with, and I would still like to know if there's a flying machine around there someplace. Aircraft old, just because all of you are getting it.
There probably, yeah, there probably is. Could you go back down to the summary?
Sure.
An example of what Teresa is saying. Okay, let me read this. Target feels like a leisure attraction area at a complex land-water junction. Okay, that's good, but it's like in a sentence format, and you could say, okay, if you put the nouns first, the target is an area which is for an attraction, you know, a leisure type area for attraction. It is complex, or it is a land-water junction which is complex. And by doing this, you're actually separating the different perceptions in such a way that somebody can go through and check and say, yeah, it's in an area. The area is leisure and for attraction, or maybe not leisure, but well, probably leisure. It is complex, or it is at a land-water junction, and that junction is complex, okay? So that then you can easily go through and take each perception and judge it on its own. So the, you know, the example I always use is that the amazing Randy will find one thing wrong in this sentence and dump the entire sentence. Oh, you're wrong. You can't, you know, this absolutely proves that psychic doesn't work. A fervent believer could find one thing right in this and be 100% convinced that the rest of it is right too. So you really want to make your sentences in such a way that the different perceptions can be judged individually. That way you can say, well, this sentence is 90% right. You know, and anyway, that's basically what Teresa was talking about, you know, organizing summary and so on. And believe it or not, it really makes a difference, especially if you're working for a customer and you hand it to a customer. The nouns followed by their descriptors will really make it clear to a customer Whereas if you have the descriptors first, it will often lead a customer astray, even though they're reading the same exact sentence. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
No, it was fine. Pat says he could have done more move commands. Target was very complex, so you just listed the solid context. I understand what you're saying, but sometimes the devil's in the details. And so if you're just listing the solid or what you think are the solid, and yeah, you're supposed to decide what goes in your summary, but if you're not including, your details, you've gotten a whole lot of work that you haven't given up to anybody, and you're selling yourself short, I think. But,
yeah, Pat, if you ever wind up saying, oh, if I had just gone one more page, then welcome to the group. That puts you down there with the rest of us. Okay.
Because that target that I just put up on Facebook that we did in January, and I put up the extra feedback photos, if I recall, Pat actually worked that session, excuse me, and only turned in like maybe his third session out of 5 or something. So I'd rather see you take breaks and keep expanding rather than thinking they're junk and only turning in the best one, because you're getting tons of information that we're not seeing. That's just me.
And you have a habit of getting good information too. So
that's right.
Generally,
that's right.
Generally, when you think a session is junk, it's your conscious mind saying it doesn't make sense to me. And generally, the ones that your conscious mind rebels against tend to be sort of the most accurate ones because it's really not wanting to give up to the subconscious mind, and so it's going to rebel against the really good ones. So one of the patterns we've always found is that if a remote viewer says, I really did a terrible job on this one, it's usually a good session.
All right. I'm narrowing this down here just so I can think I'm making progress. That's Bob's. I'm not deleting your session, just making the shortcut go away. There's Terry's. There's Michelle's. There's Pat's. There's John's. We are making progress. Who's hiding over here? There's Linda. Linda's sending in a session for the first time. That brave. Yay. Let's go with Terry's just because she has been very busy hosting. We're taking care of grandbabies this summer and hosting exchange students from Spain, I think. So she cut her session short just because it's summertime and she's busy. But we still have 14 pages, and her summary will go there since it's nice and typed out right here. The target has aspects of man-made water and biological. Man-made 1 consists of some type of overhang that is possibly constructed of cement, which is thick, horizontally planed, light-colored, rough on short vertical sides. The lip with some kind of indented line running horizontally through the middle of the side, built into it, but all in one piece. And I think there is something on that one tower that looks like that. It's ledge-like and high up, serves as a raised platform, possibly a walkway. Feels like it serves as a viewing point for biologicals to stand upon. Underneath this overhang, it feels darker, damp, hard, stuffy, or stagnant. Smells and feels like damp, stagnant water. Feels like something can be tucked under this overhang. May be possible to go under and through this overhang at some point, and multiple things may go through there. Man-made 2. Hard, possibly steel-reinforced railing may be positioned atop the overhang to protect biologicals from falling forward or below. It feels open-railed. Man-made 3, a tall wall which runs vertically from underneath the overhang, described above, Seems gray colored, hard, possibly rocky, constructed, either contrived or natural, or built to look natural. It feels slick, wet, tall, high up, and unadorned. It seems a bit slimy. Man-made 4. Maybe a man-made object at this site that's grid-like. It may be constructed of plastic with orange coloring. However, this grid-like object seems affiliated with the color blue and possibly affiliated with water. The grid lines, both horizontal and vertical, seem a bit squiggly, like it isn't constructed of something hard, but instead of something that is movable. Its purpose may be to separate two elements or for protection or safety. This grid reminds me of those plastic orange fences sometimes used. It feels like this target is affiliated with water, that the water scene is taking place below the ledge. The water element feels like it is coming from individual spouts or holes built into what may be the center of the side of the overhang described above. It feels like individual streams, and I'm not completely sure they're streams of water, are somehow individually attached to the ledge and fall down in squiggly trails, streams from the ledge. There's an up and out and over movement affiliated with these streams or sprays. It feels like they fall a good distance toward the base. There's possibly a man-made constructed oval-shaped hole at the base of the vertical wall. Seems smaller in comparison to the ledged area above. It seems like liquid falls or drips into this hole and goes through down into some area underneath. This hold area is dark. It feels like it has hard sides, like the sides are man-made. It feels like it contains liquid. The site feels like it has a combination of man-made and natural elements that seem difficult to distinguish between. It may be that there are areas that are contrived to appear natural. Biological 1 element consists of at least one biological standing above the ledge, leaning forward, possibly leaning with arms on a railing, looking downward. Seems like the biological is there to watch the scene taking place below. Biological may have some particular interest in the oval-shaped hole at the bottom of the scene. Feels male. He seems interested but casual and relaxed. Biological 2 may consist of some type of creature which has a rounded, curved, bulbous type of face or nose. It may be whiskered or have some type of spiky protrusions from its face. May have some type of off-green, gray-green coloring. Staticky element to this target somehow. Overall, it feels like it's affiliated with water for entertainment purposes or that it is interesting to view. It feels like it is an outside environment which is cool and breezy with moving, rushing water sounds. And in Terry's summary, she also does a fair amount of, just comes right out and states. Now, Patrick stated in his, we had aeronautical, and Terry is also stating what she thinks as well. So when you compare the two, I have to wonder sometimes about paragraph summaries. It does give you the freedom to paint a picture and tell a story rather than just listing perceptions. And the people who come on these Wednesdays are very, very, very often right. And so they're, I don't want to say getting away with it, but in the end, Lynn, are we fostering bad habits? This is an excellent paragraph summary. But
yeah.
if she's wrong, if she comes out and says this stuff and she's wrong, then she's, they're going to hang her out to dry. But if she listed in an outline, would it save her from that?
If she listed in an outline, it would save her from that. However, when you're doing paragraph summaries, the simple act of causing a sentence, subject, verb, and then you're left wanting a direct object and so on, will actually cause you to go back mentally and review things that you didn't even write down in the session. And so what happens is the sentences will pick up information whereas an outline wouldn't. Okay?
Okay.
Both the outline type and the paragraph type have their benefits and their drawbacks. One of the benefits of the paragraph type is that it does start coming out as a story. Now, the problem is that if you allow yourself to do AOL when you're doing paragraph type, that AOL is going to build and build and build, and you're going to start interpreting while you're doing your summary. And when that happens, you're going to go wrong. One of the benefits of the outline type is that you don't do that. But as far as most people are concerned, and I'm one of them, I like to see when they write the paragraph, I like to see it more complete like this, because it means that, you know, that they're going back and mentally feeling, reliving, and all that, things that they got in the session, but may or may not have written down. So I like this. I like the fact that the paragraph type actually builds and you know, becomes more story-like, and most people do.
Yeah, oh, I enjoy reading them, and especially because they're detailed. And I love to read a detailed summary that's a paragraph, and I'm just wondering, you know, when a viewer gets to be really, really good at that versus an outline, you know, if it is really something that we want to get them so used to it that they're kind of nailed into it, and then they end up sometimes being wrong. So that's why I brought that out, because I know we do both, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, the ideal way to do a paragraph type summary is to do the outline first. Go through and pick up everything that you got during the session, and get, you know, just the facts, ma'am, and get the facts into an outline. Then the outline will automatically organize everything as to what it goes to the different parts of, you know, the relationships and everything else. And then take your outline and write paragraphs from it rather than from your session. And if you do that, you're going to find that your accuracy on these paragraphs just really goes up. It's a lot of extra work, but if if you're working for someone, and you know it's a very important session and all that, put in the extra work because it will really raise your accuracy rate.
And Pat says thanks for the pointers, and just be careful if you click on the links that he's providing. A lot of people, it will throw you out of WebEx. Not everybody. If you copy paste them there and put them in another browser, then you're safe. But anyway, there is a helipad within 500 meters of the tower, and a water park next door, and a fish market. So just you have that extra input as to locational information.
I was imagining that there would be.
Yeah.
You don't, you know, you can trust remote viewers. They will see things that is not in the feedback, and that, you know, may not even be in text anywhere, and you go to an actual site, and sure enough, they were right. Trust your remote viewer.
Yeah, if, you know, I'm not saying that these folks could punch a time clock and, you know, hold down a 40-hour-a-week job, et cetera, but this group, whatever they churn in, there's very few of them that just totally go off into AOL land. Very rare.
Been very impressed with that, by the way. By the way, the back on the summary writing in paragraphs. You mentioned something that as somebody gets better at it, as somebody gets better at their viewing, their summary writing, their reporting, and everything else, that in itself will raise the accuracy rate an awful lot because they learn how to do it. So the major problem that you're going to find with paragraph written summaries is more with beginners than it is with the old salts that have been, you know, now doing their 800th session and so on. Practice.
I went ahead. We've got some really good sessions tonight. I pulled up Janine's, and she does have a retasking. She is also working her way through structure and getting herself kick-started because she had plateaued. And she's our best she persecutes herself regularly. I think she's our strongest candidate for that. And I'm like, no, you did better than you think. So, here are some of her sketches, and she has some observers here at the site that she's sitting cross-legged outside on the ground. So I'm scrolling down actually to her summary since we have a retasking. And I thought it was really interesting. She's trying to describe the up and down horizontal, and she's got an AOL of radio waves. And considering that's, we've now confirmed that there's electricity at the site, I thought that there were several things that could be pertained to, and I didn't think that everybody would pick up on that. I thought that was kind of unusual. And she sketched it. And then set it aside. I thought that was very impressive, so she didn't get sucked into it. Then she gives herself, I like this command, move to something of importance at the target and describe. Music, sunshine, vacation-y feel, expansive sky. Move directly to the assigned target, to the time and location given, and face the target, show or describe. And considering that we had a lot of feedback, and she has this, though, is related to a person with this headdress, not the structure that's made of all those little spheres. Still trying to get down to her summary here. And here we're getting tube-like structure, the hooped tunnel, and I think we're going to see that. Note, seemed larger than the sketch. So we could pick that up for a moment here and talk about doorknobbing and site orientation. Move to a biolog. Lots of nice move commands here. I'm glad to see you staying curious and poking your nose around. A little sketch going there. All right, target seems to have aspects of biologicals, land, natural, and objects. First biological appears to be male, sitting outside, upright on the ground. His head was back slightly and appeared to be looking up and out at something. Appeared to be sitting on a round or oval thing on the ground. It was a blue sky and warm ambiance, and he seemed to be wearing a loose, open, short-sleeved shirt and had longish hair. Second perception of a biological may have been the same biological as the first perception of a male with frontal view of his head and upper torso. Appeared to be semi-reclining or seated, leaning backwards, possibly against something from the waist. Appeared to be Caucasian with brown or tan tint to his skin, brown longish hair, large eyes, mouth slightly open, wider across his cheekbones, tapering to a narrower chin. There's some detailed facial work there. Possibly somewhere between his teens to 20s. Third perception of biological appeared to be a female, foreign appearance, regal, straight dark hair, what appeared to be a triangular headdress sitting atop her head. She had an Egyptian look. Gee, imagine that, we're in Kuwait City. Due to the highly stylized formal feel that she may have been a statue or carving. There were also several objects perceived at the target. Object 1 consisted of long, horizontal, flat pieces, which appeared to be stacked in rows with spaces between them, one above the other. This, I will have you note, from the viewer who loves nouns. Look at how she is breaking out those perceptions, and she's not saying what this object is. That is a huge step for you. Way to go.
Fantastic.
Yes, ma'am, sir, and ma'am. Sorry. There appear to be smaller objects resting between the longer horizontal pieces intermittently. There is also an impression of a long tube-like structure. She's describing it. A sort of hooped tunnel which was curved and more elevated at one end. There appeared to be liquid flowing out of it. A couple of perceptions, what might have been vehicles, perception of trifold structure with the two sides bending inward at similar angles to the larger centerpiece. I like that. Might have been vehicles. Perception of what may have been a flat area with what seemed, and some people say, well, may have been. She's like dodging everything. She's not coming out and saying anything. She's doing what she's supposed to do. She's describing. Might have been a flat area with what seemed like a horizontal line against the sky, and odd impression of an up and down line forming something similar to a radio wave. Which, there's an awful lot of design features that were also up and down. I was kind of wondering about that, but I didn't, not my session. Just stand back and look. I considered it. But she didn't go anywhere with it. She stuck with that. So here's her retasking, and we're trying to learn how to do retasking. She's not real familiar with that. So she went ahead and went through all her stages again. And we've since had discussion about you don't have to, if you need to regain sight contact and get coordinates and all that stuff, you can do all this phase 3 and AI and all that. You don't have to. You drop right back into where you came out of session, and you write your retasking at the top of the page right away. So we can talk about that in a minute and get everybody back up to speed on exactly how to retask. Because just because we've got the younger kids hanging out with the older kids here, everybody's learning a lot all at once. Stripes of red and blue on white / abutting against or running into each other. So here we go with this airplane thing again. And she was very concerned about maybe she was pulled off into an airplane crash that happened at the same, like within 24 hours. Here's her retasking, and we are down to page 6. That's why I was hoping we could again reinforce for the newer folks how to retask. Move to that which you say is land and describe. Include any all details that describe climate and vegetation which may be important to the location.
Can I say something about retasking?
Sure enough.
Just like in a session, you get certain details and they start matching together, and your tendency is to get AOLs or stray cats. When you get retasked with something, the tasker will come back and say, you said such and such, tell me more about that. At that point, you are really going to be tempted to start AOL, oh, that's right, well then, it must be, and so on. And this is one of the, introducing retasking is one of the methods that we have of teaching people how to work a remote viewing session in spite of their own inner pollution. And it's a really good exercise. Many times when we're working like a police case, the person will realize in the main session that we're working a police case, and we'll go back and we'll say, you know, human number 3, you described as such and such. Give me more of a description about human number 3. They'll think, I found the criminal, and all of a sudden, you know, when human number 3 may be a witness, human number 3 may be describe the wife of the criminal or the mother of the criminal or something like that. And you cannot read anything into retasking, but the temptation is there, and it'll get you. It'll really just eat you alive. So when you get retasking from Teresa, don't read anything into it. Just a warning, don't read anything into it at all.
Because, you know, if you're working a real session for operations, you know, if you have a perception that either myself or the customer, you know, want to know information, but we want you to chase that detail to tell us more about it. Now, on sessions like this for our Wednesday night get-togethers, most of the time I am teaching you to chase details or work with precise wording or learn how to move around or practice your structure. So there's a little bit of a difference. You know, one leads to the other. You have to become, I mean, you can't put on roller skates, years since I did that, but you can't put on roller skates and expect to go out and go 5 miles without falling down unless you maybe have angels holding you up. But anyway, maybe that's a bad description. But Lynn, I wanted to mention changing wording. When I give people retaskings or front loading, it is critical. Don't change the wording, because I gave it to you the way I gave it to you for a reason. You know, we've addressed in previous discussions, you don't move to what the tasker wants to see. You address the tasking. You know, if you want to cover one last question before you wrap up your session, is there something at the target or the tasking that I haven't picked up on, you know, describe, or however you want to word it. But never, ever move to the tasker. Tasker doesn't know anything. I mean, right now I do, because this is a practice session, and so I know the feedback. But if we're in operations, you don't want to see what I want you to see. I want you to see what the target has to tell us. So, you know, that's an example of changing wording. But now here, and I don't mean to pick on Janine, but here, move to where you can see the target, describe. All right, now the purist, if she didn't move to where she could see this feedback photos information, maybe she's, you know, someplace off to the side or whatever. You know, if there was only one feedback photo and it isn't this, you know, she could be viewing the target but not in the feedback photo, and you're, again, not viewing your feedback photo, you're making sight contact. What I'm trying to say here is, would it be better, instead of move to where you can see the target, use what we say frequently, move to the assigned target and describe, or turn and face the target and describe, versus the more casual, move and less specific. Move to where you can see the target, describe. Now, do you have anything you want to add to that, my rambling?
Well, yeah, it's important to keep the tasking as it is, because one, like I say, you can never read anything into the tasking or the retasking. I know in the basic class, we have set phrases that are used in the first three stages, and those phrases have been actually created over years of experience, and many of them have been created with the help of psychologists, psychiatrists, and so on, who know what phrases and so on will trigger the most access to your subconscious. And so I teach those phrases in the basic course. And you can say to a student the simple phrase, have them repeat it, and they will repeat it in a totally different way almost every time. And so, at some point you have to make them write it down. I know the set-aside is one where it is just almost impossible to get a person to use the phrases that have been developed over 30 years by professionals and have been proven over and over again that they're right. And you tell them the phrase, the canned phrase, and they'll change it every time. So remember, this is a science, okay? And so when you get the phrase for the tasking, for the front loading, or for the retask, the front loading for the retask, leave it like it is. There's a reason for it to be that way, and the person who gives that tasking to you, that front loading to you, has been trained to do it in a certain way. So don't go changing it, because if you do, you're very likely going to change the target. I think Teresa's mic and camera and all that is frozen. Can you hear us, Teresa? Evidently not. Okay. Do you keep asking the same retasking question then? This is from Janine. Teresa wanted me to look at the land, climate, and vegetation. Let's say Teresa retasked you with look at the land and describe it. That may be because she needs to learn to find out about the land. It may or may not be important to the actual target itself. She's just getting excess information to find out basically if you're going to your feedback or going to the actual target itself. And you may not answer that with enough information that she can tell, and she may task you with it again. And so it happens sometimes that the tasker will retask you with the same question several times. I kind of stumble at the word several. If a tasker task you with the same thing more than 3 times, the tasking is wrong. Most of the time, the tasking is wrong. And so, I don't know, or somebody type into the chat thing, are we still getting anything? Are you still hearing anything? Okay, good. I think Teresa's mic just cut out on her, so she'll drop out, sign back in, and so I'm sort of tap dancing here. Was there any other questions that anybody had that maybe I can answer? from what I've seen, these are some really good sessions. And I'm not just saying that, but these are, you know, I've seen sessions that are done and a person is just wildly happy about their results and you know, shows them on the internet and all that. And y'all are doing better than a good number of the things I've seen. Okay, I meant, do I keep repeating the same cue over and over? Oh, sure. Yeah, if this is where you start telling, where you start paying attention to your inner self. Let's say that you cue yourself with the land, okay? And you come up with information. You can then go back to any one of those pieces of information and cue yourself to get more detail on it. But especially if you think you're getting off track or off target, yeah, cue yourself with the land again, or with the man-made, or whatever you're tasked to do. And that, you know, you may task yourself 20 or 30 times with getting more and more detail with a single man-made. And or you may cue yourself 20 or 30 times with man, you know, describe the man-made. And, you know, you can do things like, okay, describe the man-made. Well, the man-made is blue. Okay. Then you can say, describe the reason why it's blue, or describe the shade of blue, or describe how it got to be blue, and things like this. And you can keep on and on and on, cueing yourself with that same man-made or with the land or whatever, and just get more and more and more detail. And once you do this, you'll find not, you may expect it to become a boring session, but what really happens is you get invested in the session, and as a result, you get more and more drawn into it, and it becomes more and more interested as you find out more and more detail. This is one of the great things about remote viewing, that it can really draw you in. I seem to always get some of the historical, like with this target, I get the burning smells, repair, oil smells, grief. How do I keep myself in the present? Very easy. You say, move to the present and describe. But you may not always want to keep yourself in the present. Sometimes you may want to actually go find the historical stuff. I mean, the historical stuff is a part of the present. And so the whole thing is, if you get curious about something, go find out the answer. And I tell people this until I'm just blue in the face, but I mean, I sound like a stuck record on it. The difference between a good remote viewer and a world-class remote viewer is that the world-class remote viewer is curious. And, you know, like a bulldog with a bone, man, you're not gonna let go of that target, and you're gonna keep gnawing away at it and all that if you're curious about it. I know one of the targets that we've had repeatedly is the basement of the White House. Okay, most people don't know the White House has a basement, but people will describe a large building and they'll quit. Well, they're right. That's good remote viewing. They were accurate. I mean, all they got was a bunch of numbers. And so they're good remote viewers. More will start describing the building. You know, it's large, it's white, it's important, it's political, and all that. And very few people will ever start going through the building and say, what's in this room, what's in that room. oh, look, there's a basement. And so the person who is curious, if you can get yourself curious about a target, you're going to be a fantastic remote viewer. One of my students one time just asked a question that just stopped me cold. I really had no answer for it. She said, "How do you get curious?" And I had no answer for that. My question was, how do you go somewhere or send your mind somewhere in the world to some fascinating place and not be curious? You just, I don't see how it can be done. So yeah, cue yourself over and over, get more and more details, and then cue yourself with one of those details, and get more and more information about it. I think we have a moderator back. I see her smiling.
Yeah.
There she is. There you go.
You know, and I think that it's my computer is not old, but it gets used a lot. And I think that when I start opening up all these tons of documents and stuff, because it doesn't do this when I'm just here by myself hardly ever. So I think it's the way that I'm using it. So I opened up Linda's target, her session here. She does have 12 pages. And I'm sorry, Linda, I did not memorize your background in remote viewing, but you're not a rookie. I think you studied with Dave Morehouse or through his DVDs or something, and maybe with Ed Baines. But you get a lot of information. The structure isn't exactly what I'm used to seeing, and you've got VF in here, which I'm not familiar with. Oh, is that verifiable feedback maybe? But anyway, we can get to that here in a minute. I wanted to scroll down through this. There's just so much information on each page, I can't begin to read it all. Viewer feelings, okay. And Courtney and Morehouse, okay. Oil, what I have thrown out there, let's see. Oil wells in perfusion, yes. I remember that from the Gulf. There's lots of oil well issues from the war. Anyway, tons of information on every page. And thank you, Linda, for putting up with me. She was not only sending in a session for the first time, she was learning how to work with software, scanning, and stuff. She took the time to send in 12 JPEGs. I'm like, we get this into a document, one document, and she was working with her son's computer. All right, summary, and then we can go back and address anything in that session that you guys want to. Target has elements of land, uneven terrain, rocky hills or mountains, a park-like or flat area, largely arid, hot, burning smell, smoky, acrid, underground water for baths, open, expansive area of minerals. There's a large machine-like thing on display with a question mark, like a big cauldron or whale shape. Although they're old machines, non-functional in the area, main feature is large, curved, metallic, dark. It may be like an old mining area with rails and tracks, some poles or lights, cables, a ringed-off area, feelings of adventure, exploration, grief, black smoke. There are biologicals working together, gray, dusty. And you are feeling uncomfortable at the site, but would venture into the area for rock samples. So, Linda, I don't know if you don't have a mic or I saw a lot of texting going on there, and she says it's her, for some reason, she doesn't think she did a good one. So is there anything that you want to bring out from your session? I see you were already asking questions, and we still need to go over Michelle's session yet. So we're doing okay. It's 9:34. We have about 25 minutes. But lots of information in here, and anything that either you or Lynn want to address, because there's just so much I would have to sit there and pick it apart. I think my first sense of it is there's a ton of sense or perceptions that didn't get included in her summary. She just said it's her first one. She doesn't know how to write one. So I'm thinking there's a ton of good perceptions that weren't included in her summary. And after that, if you all want to just run, go ahead. Yep, aircraft right off the bat, like everybody else. This has had a really good discussion while I was gone. I've all gone radio silent. Lynn, it's pretty unusual for you not to comment on somebody's structure or session. So.
I'm sorry, I'm typing to Linda here.
Oh, very good.
I haven't sent it yet.
Okay. Well, I'll shut up so you can. Impression, we all live in a yellow submarine. P7 coming in there. Sorry, I just yawned on you. I apologize. All of you. Reading sideways. I probably should flip it. Yeah. That's a nice sketch. Looking at what you've got listed with your numbers as to what's where in the sketch. He's doing a lot of typing. Now, if you take Courtney's classes online, I'm just going to have to, there are modules, I really need to do that. Just for probably half a dozen people that I know have taken advantage of that. I'm going to speak the same language. It would be very helpful. I need to find it. I'm really bad at drawing. If anybody knows, while we're killing time here waiting for Lynn to finish typing, if anyone knows of an artist who would be willing to come and speak to us, I would love to do that, a webinar on that. Sketching. I tried to do it after the 2010 conference when Jim Channon came. Didn't get him and really didn't pursue it, so I didn't get that off the ground. And after this last URBA conference, and we worked on facial sketching, I'd like to try and do that again. That's okay, Pat. I mean, it is the middle of the night where you are. You don't have to apologize. Thanks for coming.
I sent to all attendees instead of all panelists. Did anybody get what I was typing? About summaries?
I did not.
I don't seem to have all participants on mine.
Can you, and that happens from time to time. Can you type it in, where did it go again? What did you choose? All panelists?
No, I had all attendees. I thought that would go to everybody.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, nobody here is an attendee. You're all panelists so that you can get a mic.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can copy and paste them.
Okay. Only panelists get to have mics. So when you come, I usually right-click on everybody and convert your status right away. First page, Linda got the feel of structure. Well, very good. Hopefully you had some documentation in your session that reflected that, such as a gestalt and an ideogram. I knew I'd do that. There we go. Good summaries are very hard. They take training, believe it or not. Writing of summaries is a major part of a basic course. A lot of study and development went into the development of CRP, and proper writing of summaries was a major part of that development, simply because we catered to so many different types of customers and types of work. That was also good to get down in the recording for other people who are listening later.
Yeah, we, of course, had to write it in military terms, but when we worked for Intel, intelligence agencies, we had to write it in intelligence terms and all that. And over a long period of time, they finally developed a methodology for writing summaries that actually worked well for every type of customer and so on. And in the basic course, we teach that type of summary writing because if you write the summary in that way, first of all, it will not look like a starry-eyed psychic wearing a hat with comets and stars on it, or a tinfoil hat. And for another thing, it's very clear and understandable. And so, yeah, the development of summary writing for CRV sessions was actually a major part of the development of CRV.
Excuse me, now I'm itching my nose. Linda, thanks for sending in your stuff. And I know you've been practicing quietly behind the scenes before the venture forth, but that was actually quite impressive. I'm really happy that you did that, and looking forward to seeing more session work from you. And this is Michelle's, and I saved hers for last just because I did not have enough research, and Pat's helped a lot with that now, research at this target for what I skimmed yesterday when Michelle's session came in. I thought, I don't have enough feedback to cover what she's writing about. And so, of course, I was not going to start jumping in and saying anything about her session until I had done my homework, which I had barely any background at all. And you are welcome. So, Michelle, let's go down through here. We're getting all kinds of stuff here with topology. Concern of castle building, specifically sand castle building, and she's been working with art supplies. She's telling herself to get back to the target. And Jiffy Pop image of popcorn coming out of expanded foil. Oh, now that's interesting. Anybody old here old enough to know what Jiffy Pop is? I'll be darned, and I am not making excuses for you, and I am not waffling.
I'm sorry, I was born before they invented corn.
They didn't have it down there in Texas, did they? It's too dry. An expanded Jiffy Pop bag looks like that. That's pretty cool. Let me get this back and keep messing with stuff. All right. So much for showing the target at the same time. Never mind. So she did a straight cat on that. And then we've got Gilligan Overdrive. Oh, okay. Bundt cake shaped, almost water hole centered. So a bundt cake pan has a water hole, or has a hole in the center of it. Seeing caves with high curved ceilings, water trickling into deep, small to medium pool. She's setting all this aside so she can keep viewing. And small territory, a couple of miles in each direction, golf course, and golf is land. G-U-L-F is land. I won't mention that she got up and went to the bathroom there. Took a powder room break. Very good. Cement stairs, metal rail. Smooth cement, grayish tan and cream, like an outbuilding at a park. Smelled the smells of kindergarten, fruity with art supplies, okay? Quickety floors, and it's 2 stories high. And Michelle has not had a dance, so she doesn't do scalar work. So I'm just, she's trying to describe things here that if she had the right tools, she might be able to do more things. By the way, this is from the girl who was afraid to venture out into structure. She studied her little heart out before she put her pen to that paper. Actually, most of my students do that. I don't make them do that. That's the way they come. They want to have that manual down before they venture out into the water. She's getting a treehouse adventure connection. So tree houses conceptually are up in the air, not waffling. Dirty Dozen, that movie. That was in a desert-like environment, wasn't it, Lynn?
I believe it was, yeah.
I don't think that was jungle. I'm thinking that was desert.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the the dozen that.
Dirty Dozen? Yeah.
No, not. Is
No?
it? What are the dozen that went and robbed the casinos in?
Oh.
I don't know.
Anyway.
I was born before they had movies, so you know.
Oh, jeez. All right. I'll tell you what, the fact that she is fighting these stray cats and still viewing. Flashes of old Cuba. Young men fired up.
It's good to see that she's fighting these stray cats.
Yep, and she is still viewing. Something about it is like Space Camp. What am I thinking of with up in the air, the Space Needle? So that's not what she said. That's what I was trying to pull out of my head. Asian looking adult. Now we're having stray cats of Lake Titicaca. Underground pool, okay. Oh, hey, we got a big AI here. I'm at the target. Curious to see more. Feels like serious picnic. There are young ladies, and she's often viewing again. And beyond her, she's getting perceptions here in sentence form. Little habits that she has. Table. The thing is, she's usually right. Tables have red and white checked plastic covers. People are walking with their plates, but they feel more like associates than family or friends. Eager to eat, but more eager to digest what they're learning and thinking about. Can't feedback on that. Get these sketches of what she might be seeing. Feels like small, privately owned, insignificant islands that people pass by every day thinking that they're empty and void of activity. Unusual rocks and fossils. Rocks are dark slate, almost black, smooth, almost by hand. Fossils are conifers, rusty brown. Edges of this land seem to be hard. Layers of shelf-like crust, very unusual. Feels dark, platformy, almost like a huge flattened seashell, one on top of the other. In Cornwall, there are remnants of forts or lookouts. She lived in England for a while. Built into the cliffs, unless you're right on, you probably don't notice them. This place felt like that to me, but I think it is on the protected side, not overlooking water. More shadow from vegetation, tall trees, insignificant hillsides. She gets kind of wrapped up in the location, not necessarily the target itself. Purpose, educational, focused event. She's also one person who wants to learn something from everything. So she's a student 24/7. Target has aspects of land. It pays to know your viewers. And aspects of land, man-made, space, motion, biological, or water. Land is circular pattern from above. It is small amount of land surrounded by a body of inland water. Main feature of the land is low to mid-range hill or gentle bump. Land is crusty, coasted with sheer layered rock, differentiating levels out and down. This sheer layered of only a couple miles in each rock is dark like slate or volcanic, small territory, only a couple miles in each direction, not much flat. Many tall brick, thick-barked trees like Maine that are something similar to juniper. Man-made is an appendage or add-on to the natural form. It's cement stairs, metal railed with tall metal door. Cement of the wall forms were plain and straight, mostly with one broad horizontal cutout that was narrow like a slit for looking out. Function of this man-made is like an outbuilding at a park. Unadorned, utilitarian, basic shelter lifted up by posts, platforms, square shaped. And Janine, by the way, on her retasking was getting a square structure building as well. Floors are smooth and hard like stone. It's old, crude, damp, and rusted. There's a sense of foreboding. Space was nature-centered, away from noise, people, and distractions. Camp vibration, excuse me, as in a certain number of people come for a specific amount of time. Training or learning function at this place. At first glance, it appears empty and quiet with no motion in the main area. Around into the back of the area are small groups listening and writing. The space is a historical pivot point of interest. Day trip distraction vibe, as also by appointment only. Motion is being dropped off and trekking. Listening, learning, handling, coordinating, gathering something. Informing, wagering, calculating. Motion is as much about imagining as it is imaging. Rendezvous motion is about climbing and descending, regrouping and mixing up. Biologicals are Asian-looking adult male and female, physically fit, studious, focused on achievement, excited over subject matter. Biologicals have been awarded these spots to their focus on language and signals. Something about them, this gathering, puts me in mind of Boy Scout training. Water is the main feature of this site. Water is dark and cold with movement of an inland large lake. At the target, there are spongy water holes. There is a steep waterfall that ends up in an underground pool. I think I kind of have to like that inland large lake. Thing is, she's named it. Where there is, the water tower, which is a reservoir. And so, she's named it as an inland large lake. But anyway.
The body of water that this is next to, doesn't that eventually lead out to the sea?
It seems like I hate to go I can't roam around in here and do search engine stuff. But that feedback that I had up on Google, I think the sea is very close.
Yeah, I think so.
So anyway, I wanted to go through everybody else's sessions before I got to this one because I thought I might have more background for whatever picture she's painting. And really, and Janine is saying yes. I think she was probably agreeing with what you were saying about the sea.
Yeah.
As far as Michelle goes, she covers topology and aspects of topology that other viewers don't get. You expect, a viewer to describe the picture, and she hardly ever does that. So from a Randy standpoint of being able to say that she got that target, she's probably not going to do very well.
However, I was pretty much impressed with her sketches.
Right. I was going to say, Lynn, can you speak anything to the fact that now I actually am teaching people from her sketches of her the salt mine that we did over in Poland, because they are so spot on that people take one look at them and they don't know what to say. They are like, whoa. But she doesn't always do that. And sometimes she'll nail the topology like this. And yeah, her sketches are usually very, very good. So if you could address her learning curve at this point, what would you say to her?
To keep doing what I think she's already doing, what it's evident that she's already doing, and that is practice, practice, practice. And to go back and look through her summaries, look through her whole session with one hand, on one hand, and with the other hand have the feedback right there, and just start picking out and start reliving the session. When did I go into analysis? When did I go into fall back into viewing, and so on? That kind of analysis done outside of a session, not while you're doing the session, but that kind of analysis is, more boring than watching grass grow, but it really has value to it.
You know, if I were working operations, and she's not close to that, but if I wanted a location description, I wouldn't hesitate to use her, just because I may get a session that looks exactly like that sketch.
Oh yeah.
Or
Absolutely.
I might get a session that when we ran it in January, and Pat, I just posted on Facebook those sketches of Pat where he described the cemetery and everything that's there, and it was at the location. Michelle's session was the outlier that didn't match up, but I'm like, there's something. I know it's in the back of my head, there is something. And when we closed and I started researching, sure enough, just like if you wanted one thing that was at that location that would distinctly drive it, make it absolutely positive that that's the one. If you had 10 to pick from, that's the one. It was her session. So she may come in with a sketch that looks exactly like the salt mine. Actually, she's a good church girl. She probably very much did enjoy that target, because that was the purpose. Or she may come in with a sketch that looks like total, where were you? But if you start digging into it, there are going to be aspects there that nobody else got. And so, when I come to a viewer like her, a student, whether it's somebody who's paying me to train them, or they're just showing up here every 2 weeks, it's like you hate to say much of anything. They're practicing, they're learning what to do. If you start boxing them in, you're going to nail their subconscious down to not telling you what it's supposed to or should, but what your expectations are, which is not good.
That's true, but this is the difference between critiquing a session and using it as a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, the purpose of a practice target is not to learn something about the target, it's to learn something about yourself.
Yeah.
And if when you review a session, you forget that that is the real purpose for the viewer, then you're doing the viewer a great disservice.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot to be learned from this session. And, when I say go through the session, comparing each and every perception to your feedback, the amazing thing is not that you see how much you did wrong, but that you see how much you did right and interpreted it wrong. And a session like this has good information in it. And many times it may be interpreted incorrectly, and yet the information is there. And when you tear this session apart, this is a good session.
Yep.
And she is excellent.
Randy would, James Randy would just have a field day with it, would see absolutely nothing in it that was good. But, if she were working operations and you had a local expert, from the site and stuff, that hers might be the one session. I would just like to point out that they'd be running screaming from the room going, that's it, because nobody else got what you got.
Yeah, there was one time when we were looking for a missing person, and I got descriptions of the person, their location and all that, and it was, that whole area for miles around was described by everything I got. And at one point there's a outcropping of white chalky rock. And the police said, oh, I know where that is. The entire session I did was good. It was on target. It was good descriptions, and it was totally useless because it only narrowed it down to, 500 square miles or so. But that one little thing of the white chalky rock.
Yeah.
And a cop said, "Oh, I know where that is." And sure enough, they found the person.
Very good.
Not from my session, but from one sentence in my session. And one of the saving graces about the remote viewing, especially if you're doing it in a team or in a group like you're having here, is that the analyst knows what the tasking is and probably knows more than even the project manager about what the target is. And a good trained analyst will know their viewers well enough to know who does things symbolically, who reports things accurately, who reports things, and who analyzes during session and all that. And a good analyst will make up for a ton of errors that any viewer might make. And so, here we're learning to remote view and to do it as accurately as possible. And so you really need the analysis. But when you go to work in a group working on operational projects, actually the pressure is off a lot. And many times the pressure being off will make you relax and just do the job. So it's not something to really worry about at this point.
Thank you, Miss Michelle, for sending in that session. Anything that you have been watching the comments and anything you'd like to jump in or ask? She's a note taker. She's probably taking notes madly. And that is our last session, I do believe. And it's 10:06, so we didn't do too badly, even though my computer was not totally wanting to be here tonight. We're going to get together, and we've had a little bit of scheduling jumping around with people on vacation. August has been somewhat in flux, but we are going to put Lynn back on our first, the 13th of August, our first get together in August, speaking about phase 7. And again, for those who came the other day and we waited for a little bit, I had a PowerPoint up with what the phase 7 as Ingo has it in the Stargate document. And people still think that that's right. They think
that's as he has it in Tommy's Stargate document.
But that's the only thing that people have ever seen or know. So that's why I thought it was really kind of important for you to talk to Ingo since that original document way back when, and it's like anything else that's evolved. So it's going to be really interesting to hear what you have to say that goes beyond what he outlined there and what he thought about later on. And that's the whole purpose of me bringing that out and getting it in a webinar for anybody that's interested. So
yeah, what Tommy outlined was different from what Ingo wound up developing for stage 7, and so Tommy was very early on,
right?
And so
anyway, let's not give away the whole discussion now, because
stage 7 is greatly misunderstood and can use a lot of explanation.
I'm glad we're going to work on that. So anyway, so thanks for coming, everyone, and target for next month is up. The coordinates are on the registration form. I don't want to wing it here and be putting coordinates into this feedback. So anyway, you can start working next month's target anytime. Get it to me. We'll work on retasking. And we're looking at the end of the year. Lynn, I don't think you were in here yet then. We're already down to August, and I have one person that I'm looking at for November for a presentation. October, we may have to take off if I possibly might be going to a conference, which will be a conflict, and I can only do so many things. And then next year, I'm seriously thinking of cutting back. So I just have other things to do. So if anybody has any suggestions, because we don't have too many people left in here tonight, but anything that you really wanted to see or hear about in a presentation, please email me, because I really think I need to start cutting back so I can work on other things. And these presentations, we've done so many that if you ask about them, we can probably point you to a webinar where they are already discussed. So please email me with any ideas that you have, and we will probably work on them as they come in, but not as a regularly monthly scheduled event. So anyway, thanks for coming. And Lynn, thank you for all your commentary. Thanks everybody for sending their sessions. And we will see you in a couple of weeks.
See you then. Thank you. Thank you for coming, everybody.